Regulation and total control is literally at the grasp of people. Isn't it amazing how we as individuals, we like power? We really do. If we can control something, we want to. So by nature, we see this even with our politicians and with our government. We're going to talk about a few stories that we should be paying attention to. Now, these are states in America. This is not some far-off country. These are states in America putting these laws in force, and it's going to cause major problems for the people in the states. Now, the sad thing is no one's talking about it, so therefore, because these things are happening, they're going to happen in other states as well, because we're seeing no pushback like we as Americans who want freedom should be doing. Let's jump into today some eye-opening stories that we should have our attention on. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Today is going to be a good video. We're going to talk about some eye-opening stories that should scare us when it comes to some of these states. And if you live in these states, first of all, I'd say you need to get out of these states. However, if you cannot move, you've got to learn to push back. You've got to get your freedoms back intact and make sure that you are fighting for your liberty. So let's jump into the stories. If you're new to The Max, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but let us know what you think about this video. If you're from these states, give me your thoughts on what you're doing or what you're not doing, and is it a chance for more regulation, or are you thinking y'all can get away from some of these crazy laws? So let's jump into it. Okay, New York, first and foremost, a lot of these states are liberal states. Now, that doesn't mean they're always liberal. There's bad players on both sides. But what I am saying is we are seeing more regulation and more enforcement definitely in these states that tend to lean more liberal and Democrat. So New York, now we've talked about the stove situation with the gas stoves. So a law passed, of course, this is back in 2018, but you're starting to really see it come to fruition because you're starting to see it now with appliances for 2024. It says that, and this is Local Law 97, that all new buildings that are under 7 stories to have all electric appliances beginning in 2024, with the requirement extending to most taller buildings beginning 2027. The city has estimated roughly 4,000 buildings could fall short of these standards and under the emissions rule after it takes effect. Now, the scary thing is, if we see most of these buildings are going to be tenant buildings, people that live in these buildings, maybe lower income in some and then upper income when they start getting to the bigger buildings. But what I'm saying is, if you're saying I'm taking all other elements out and all we can have is all electric versions of appliances, heating or cooling, does that not put us in a very precarious spot to where we will be more controlled? Now, I know that sounds crazy, and I know that that's a tinfoil hat thought there, but if I have propane or I have gas or I have some other way to have another form of alternative energy sources, then it allows me to at least have a little bit of freedom or liberty even in a building. I have a chance to be able to still heat or cool or cook. Well, when you take all those elements out, especially coming in effect at the end of this year, starting next year, and also the buildings that have already started being built that's going to be ready by next year, so it's already in effect, you're going to see people struggle and not have the availability to be able to even heat, cool their homes or cook without the grid. Well, then if the grid is controlled by green emissions and all these initiatives, then what's to say that that won't control you even more with that regulation? The little tiptoes and the little crawl towards these initiatives are making us fall flatter on our faces as Americans, and we're putting ourselves even more impoverished and even more in control. Now, we're not done with New York because here's another thing that should concern you. So another agenda that's just been pushed. New York City pushes a limit on green policies, meaning congestion pricing. The city has yet to finalize, but they're thinking it will pass. One proposal considers anyone driving in Midtown during rush hour is an extra $23. It's a tax. Anyone driving off-peak hours would be $17. What it is the en-routes into New York from New Jersey and from other states, and also from out of the city coming into the city. They're going to impose more higher rates, more toll rates, more taxes that you will have to pay. So I always tell people this. A lot of times it's not just the fact of what the rules and regulations they'll put. They'll use these little channels to not let you vote on it, but basically pass these tolls and all these taxes on you. For instance, did you vote for no gas or propane being allowed to be in your home if you're in New York? Did you vote for all these higher taxes to be placed on you? If you look at your money per month, if you equate all the taxes you pay, not just federal and state, but all the local taxes, the city taxes, the property taxes, every tax, even down to sales tax, if you equate what you pay for that, then you have to account for the inflation that you felt the last few years. Your paycheck is going to regulation, control, and initiatives. It's not going to your freedoms and liberties. It's going to things that actually are not benefiting you. Even down to the wood fire pizzas in New York, and where they're saying, okay, you gotta make electrics, no more wood fires. That's crazy. It's not just about the restaurants and just about your pizza. The fact that the government can say you cannot even start a fire in our city. That's a big deal, and don't think this won't happen in other areas. Now let's move on. Second state I want to talk about is Oregon. There was a story that came out that the new law that's been passed with the Second Amendment was brought before a judge, and now the judge is saying, a federal judge is saying, oh, it's not infringing on your rights. Now here's the law. It basically states that yes, you can have firearms. However, you can't have a magazine or capacity over 10 rounds. Well, that takes away just about every style carbine, every self-defense tool, or even down to your smaller pistols. Most law enforcement would carry more than that. Now, the problem I have with this is that means you're able to have a hunting rifle, which is wonderful. I love that. But why is it anyone's business and them moving into your property and your freedoms to say, oh, just because you want more than 10 rounds, that's going to be illegal now? Not in our state. We don't want that in our state. Well, it didn't say in the Constitution that it's a right to bear arms and you can only have 1 or 2 rounds. That's absolutely crazy. And if I lived in Oregon, first of all, I would move out of New York and Oregon and California and all these other states that we're going to be talking about. If you don't believe the regulations and the control elements are hitting you hard, think about that. You're not allowed to defend yourself. You're not allowed to take care of your family by alternative energy. I mean, for instance, New York is divesting a lot of their pensions and their retirements from oil and fossil fuels. That's where a lot of people make their monies in retirement. So I'm just saying there's a lot going on that people are missing because those little elements of control, when it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, I don't think we realize in actuality it's a lot of regulation coming on you as the consumer. And so now your money is being taxed so many different ways, state, federal, and city. And then on top of that, they're telling you what you can or can't buy with your money. And then on top of that, it's infringing on your rights and your freedoms. Last story is in California, of course, the wonderful state of California, which is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's amazing how beautiful California is, but y'all got some crazy loony people regulating you out there. California came out because of the heat wave, and they're saying we need to limit air conditioner uses across the state. Do you know that heat is actually one of the biggest causes of death in all across the world? There's a story that came out that said 90 million Americans across 16 states from Washington to Florida are under heat alerts because people know how dangerous it actually is, especially to the more vulnerable. So now California, which is wanting you to not have fossil fuels, wanting you to, I mean, completely drink the Kool-Aid on these green initiatives and wanting you to get away from all gases and fuels that want you more on the grid, is now telling you, well, our grid is struggling. We're having some problems with the heat wave. We may be in a drought, and we need you to limit your air conditioner use. People. Control starts with the smallest of things. And when you turn around and look, you've realized you've taken 10 steps. I think about it, I have moist, humid ground. I mean, you see I live on a farm, and it is very humid in the south, and there's just moisture on there. You can actually see right there. You see that path? Look at my path of my tires from my side-by-side. If I walk in that grass, you're gonna see my footsteps. But if I just add a little bit, and then I turn around, I realize, wow, I've went a long ways. I felt like I haven't went too far from my house. But when I look around and see, wow, I actually have a big pathway leading away from my home, and that was a pretty good movement away. It's the same way with these policies and these regulations and these agendas. They don't have to pass the laws. A lot of times they can just enforce them with all these other avenues, a lot of these non-elected government offices and officials and all these agendas that are going through. It's taking away from your freedoms. I just talked about 3 states. There's like 10 to 15 more states that are pushing all these crazy policies. And in the name of climate, or in the name of green energy, or in the name of all this stuff, it's going to cost you more. They're taxing you more, you're losing your freedoms, and you're being more manipulated day in and day out. Please, people, stand up for your freedom and realize the things that are happening around you. So let me know what you think. First of all, you need to share this content because a lot of people don't realize how dangerous the things like Right to Bear Arms, the rights of freedoms to be able to do what you want to do and have what you want to have and buy what you want to buy, they're getting taken away from you. So make sure you are sharing this kind of information and doing your own research. I hope this video is a little eye-opening because people in the conservative states like ours, one day this will be on our doorsteps, and we've got to make sure that we start the talking now so it never makes it to all the other states and then goes across worldwide or goes across at least American-wide. Our freedoms are important. We fought so much for it. People bled and died for it. What are we doing? So let me know what you think about this video. Comment below. Do you believe that these are good regulations? Do you believe that this agenda and all this green initiatives are good for us? Or do you believe it's just more of the same? Regulation and control and losing freedom. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homestead, y'all.